In the history of firearms, there are unmistakable silhouettes, but there is one color that defines an era. Before blued steel dominated the prairies, there was a golden flash that terrified armies in Europe and gave hope to settlers in America. They called it Yellowboy. It was the first rifle to bear the name Winchester. It wasn't just an improvement. It was the machine that taught the world the power of rate of fire. It was, for all intents and purposes, one of the first practical assault rifles in history. Today we are going to do a full autopsy. We'll analyze its ballistics in detail, its brutal economics, why it made muzzle loading obsolete, its variants, and how it survived rivals, and even its own steel successors. Load your weapons, because we are starting. The Winchester 1866 didn't appear out of nowhere. Its grandfather was the volcanic repeating arms, a fascinating invention, but disastrous, that fired caseless bullets. It was a commercial and technical failure absolute. Oliver Winchester purchased the assets of this bankrupt company in 1857, risking his personal fortune. If you want to know the full history of that disaster and how it almost ruined Oliver Winchester, there is a detailed video on the channel. From those ashes, born the 1860 Henry rifle. The Henry was the star of the Civil War with its 16 shots, but it had fatal flaws. Its magazine was open at the bottom, mud got in, and it had no wood in front. The spring follower had a tab that traveled down the tube on the outside, which forced you to dance with your hand to avoid blocking the mechanism, besides burning you if you fired fast. Here is where the legend is born. In 1866, Nelson King not only put a piece of wood, he redesigned the feeding system completely. King invented the side loading gate on the receiver. This seems like a minor detail, but it changed everything. It allowed the magazine tube to be completely closed, making it airtight and much more robust to knocks with less material. Plus, the spring could compress better and store up to 2 more cartridges. It allowed reloading the weapon without stopping aiming at the enemy, and without having to get up. You could keep the rifle on your shoulder and load the bullets one by one while you fired. As a curious fact, it's worth noting that this Winchester model was not called 1866 just when it came out, but simply Winchester rifle, since it was the first rifle to bear this name. Now let's talk about pure, hard engineering. The heart of the weapon was the .44 Henry rimfire. To understand why this rifle triumphed, you have to compare it with what 90% of the world used: muzzle loaders. Imagine you are a settler in the rain with a musket. Humidity is your enemy. If the black powder gets wet, the gun doesn't fire. You have to measure the powder, insert the ball, and place the percussion cap. It is slow and prone to failures, hang fires, or flash in the pan. With the Winchester 1866 and its copper metallic cartridge, the powder was sealed hermetically. You could fall into a river, pull out the rifle, and fire. Now, let's go to the data. Was the .44 Henry really that weak? Here is the technical sheet. The projectile: a flat-nosed lead bullet of 200 to 216 grains, approximately 13 or 14 grams. The load: between 26 and 28 grains of black powder. Muzzle velocity about 1,125 feet per second, and the energy generated about 568 foot-pounds, 770 joules approximately. It has power similar to a .45 ACP, fired from a carbine. That is the caliber of the Colt 1911 pistol, or slightly superior to a .44 Special. If we compare it with a modern .44 Magnum, the Winchester 66 is a toy. The Magnum has triple the energy. The big problem was the exterior ballistics at 200 yards, almost 200 meters. The drop was dramatic, more than 28 inches, 70 centimeters. You had to aim above the enemy's head to hit him in the chest, but anemic doesn't mean harmless. At 100 meters or less, a 200-grain bullet made a terrible hole and had enough mass to break bones. It was conceptually like an assault rifle modern. It didn't seek to kill at a kilometer. It sought to suppress the enemy with a rain of fire at medium range. It wasn't a hunting weapon. It was a weapon of battle. Winchester created 3 versions to dominate the entire market. 1. The carbine, 20-inch round barrel about 51 centimeters. It weighed about 3.5 kilos, and its hallmark is the saddle ring, the favorite of cowboys and natives for being light and manageable on horseback, and that ring served to tie it to the saddle. Therefore, if you fired while riding and it dropped or slipped from your hands, you could recover it by pulling the cord. Then we had the sporting rifle, a barrel octagonal of 24 inches, 61 centimeters. It weighed more than 4 kilos. The octagonal barrel helped dissipate heat and gave more front weight to stabilize the aim. And finally, the musket, the military rarity. Huge 27-inch barrel, 68 centimeters, and a socket bayonet lug, designed for armies that still believed in bayonet charges. It had an almost full handguard to protect the hand in hand-to-hand combat. Besides, depending on what you wanted to spend, you could choose different modifications. You just had to contact Winchester and they gave you what you wanted. Let's talk about money. A Winchester 1866 cost between $40 and $50 of the time, about 1,000 current dollars. But with a very different purchasing power, a soldier earned $13 a month, 4 months of full salary. A cowboy earned about $30, the cost of ammunition. A box of 50 bullets cost about $2. That was the salary of 2 or 3 days. The alternative was surplus muskets for $5 or $8. Buying a Winchester was a real luxury, but the success of the .44 Henry forced the industry to adapt, creating logistical synergy. Colt had to release the open-top 1871 model in this caliber. Smith & Wesson manufactured versions of its Model 3 in .44 Henry. Even the legendary Colt Peacemaker, single-action Army, had early versions manufactured in .44 rimfire. Having the same cartridge for your rifle and your revolver, the famous one-man, one-caliber, was a logistical convenience and a tactical advantage priceless. Imagine not having to carry 2 types of different bullets in your horse's saddlebags. This rifle changed military history in 1877 at the Siege of Plevna. The Ottoman Empire used nearly 30,000 Model 1866 rifles and carbines against the Russians. When the Russian infantry charged with their old rifles, they were swept away by the Turkish rate of fire. It is estimated that the Turks fired 10 times faster. That day, generals around the world understood that the future was repetition. In Mexico, Benito Juarez's troop, Wanda, bought batches, thousands of units imported as contraband to fight against the French. Napoleon III's soldiers learned to fear that golden shine, and in the north, legends like Chief Sitting Bull or Wild Bill Hickok owned 1866 carbines. At the Battle of Little Bighorn, archaeologists have found hundreds of .44 Henry casings in Indian positions, demonstrating the overwhelming fire superiority over Custer. The 1866 had external and internal enemies. One, the Spencer, which in the mid-1870s the Army retired and sold as surplus, therefore much cheaper than the new Winchester rifles. Also, there was a lot of quantity, but they were slow. You had to cock each shot manually, and its reloading was also slower than that of the Winchester Yellowboy. Besides, even if they were a bit more powerful, they had an ammunition capacity significantly lower. 2. The Sharps rifle, the king of power, complementary to the Winchester. One to hunt buffalo, where the .44 Henry would practically bounce off the skull, and another to survive a bandit attack. But the real rival came from its own blood. The Winchester 1873, better known as the gun that won the West, although that's not entirely true. This model solved the problem of the material weakness. They changed the brass for a steel frame and, in the cartridge, to the .44-40 Winchester centerfire, and the difference, the 1866 rimfire could not be reloaded. The .44 centerfire allowed cowboys to pick up their brass and reload their own ammunition by the campfire. It was also a more powerful cartridge and much more manageable. And at the end of the century came the Winchester 1892, designed by the genius John Moses Browning. Browning made the model 1886 smaller. The 1892, it had 2 locking blocks rear that made it incredibly strong, while the model 1866 would explode with modern powder, smokeless. The model 1892 could fire high-pressure cartridges, which made both the Yellowboy and the later model 1873 obsolete. Even so, the Yellowboy held its own in the market until almost the year 1900, coexisting with them as the economic option and reliable. Today, the .44 Henry caliber is obsolete and no longer manufactured, but the rifle is more alive than ever thanks to modern reproductions. If you want one today, you have 2 great options. An Uberti, they are the kings of the historical replica. Their 1860s are works of art used by reenactors and in movies, also in high competition, and they respect the original dimensions almost to the millimeter. And then we have Moroku. They manufacture the rifles that are sold today under the official Winchester brand. Their steel quality and finish is ironically much superior to those of the originals of the 19th century. And what do they fire if the .44 Henry doesn't exist? They have been adapted to many modern calibers, among them the .45 Colt, which we already talked about in another video, was never designed or manufactured for rifles' lever action. Then, in modern ones like the .38 Special or the .357 Magnum, the most popular and economical option. Also for the .44 Special, which is a caliber that is quite close ballistically to the .44 Henry. And finally, for the .44-40, perhaps the most exact caliber for the era for those who want to reload their own historical ammunition like in 1873. although I don't have any official data surely, and with total accuracy, there will have been more replicas manufactured than original Yellowboys. The cinema adores the Yellowboy. It is the king of the spaghetti western. In The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, we see it constantly thanks to the Italian replicas from Uberti. Although it is not entirely correct, since the movie is set in the Civil War, which is in 1860, and the Yellowboy was in 1866. However, in other movies like Silverado or Appaloosa, they fit quite well. In the world of video games, we have also been able to use it. Perhaps the most famous is Red Dead Redemption 2. Under the name Lancaster Repeater, and in the slightly older video game from 2005, Gun, among many others. The Winchester 1866 was the bridge between the black powder past and the modern future. Its success was such that it remained in production until the year 1898, touching the 20th century. In total, more than 170,000 were manufactured units, an impressive figure for a weapon that, theoretically, had become obsolete after the release of the model 1873. Its steel brothers, the 73 and the 92, may have taken the fame later, but it was the brass of the model 1866 that cemented the Winchester Empire. It demonstrated that, on a hostile frontier, having 16 shots, impervious to rain, was worth more than all the gold in its receiver. If you like this trip to through history, technical and ballistic, hit that subscribe button as if it were your loading lever. And don't forget to watch the video about the volcanic to understand better where all this comes from. I am Logan, 1851 Old West History. Keep your powder dry.